Join another.
I think so. I didn't rewatch the episode, so I'm in the dark.
They were,
They had at least one interaction when they were holding the brothers at gunpoint.
And was that conversation about something other than a man? It was not, so...
Yeah, I think it was about, like, oh, this is Sam and Dean.
Yeah. Do you know these dudes?
I think the episode, like, where Ellen and Jo are concerned, it was very much about, like, kind of developing them as individuals, and...
Yeah, we had to lay some groundwork for who they are.
And, like, who they are in relation to John, and, like, why we should care about them. And I think they didn't really develop, like, their relationship with each other very much.
Yeah, we're gonna see Ellen again next episode. We're gonna see them again at least in, like, a couple more episodes. Like, we're gonna see them again, and we're gonna have more time to have them interact with each other and with other characters. So this one didn't pass, but it did introduce two of, like, the most iconic female characters in the early seasons.
Hell yeah.
This week's case of the week was a rakshasa. I am hoping that Meredith got her immediately before we started recording, research finished.
Actually, it was, like, during recording, too. I was typing on my phone the whole time.
Excellent.
So I have short notes, but I have notes.
Take it away.
All right. So the first place I encountered a rakshasa was in a D&D monster manual, and it looked like an anthropomorphized tiger who loved, like, wealth and decadence. So you can imagine how weird watching this episode for the first time was for me. A rakshasa is a man-eating being in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. A female is actually called a rakshasi, which is interesting. And it's believed that they were created by the god Brahma from his breath while he was sleeping. And the second they were created, they were so bloodthirsty that they started eating him, which he wasn't a fan of. So he shouted Rakshama, which is Sanskrit for protect me. So the Rakshasa are named after that cry for help, which is actually really cool. And then the god Vishnu came to help him and banished all the Rakshasa to Earth for humans to deal with, which we are grateful for.
Because, we're just so much better equipped than, literal gods.
It's fine. They need trials in life. Anyway, Rakshasas are shapeshifters. Their real forms are very big and monstrous, and they have ginormous fangs, which is awesome. I love fangs. And also some artwork shows them drinking blood out of human skulls, which is an aesthetic I aspire to have. They can also fly, create illusions, and vanish. We saw the vanishing part in this episode, which is nice and very climactic. There are lots of stories with Rakshasas in Indian literature. Sometimes they're heroes, more often they're villains, and apparently they're always cool, at least in my opinion, because monsters. And in conclusion, Rakshasas aren't that different from the way they're portrayed on Supernatural, but I demand big fangs next time.
Big fangs.
To be fair, he was masquerading as a clown. Not a lot of... I mean, it's not impossible to have a fanged clown, but,
That is, like, one of the only things that could really make a clown worse.
I was just thinking, like, the climax was a good spot for, like, at least a few seconds of fang.
You're welcome that was for that image.
True. Let's do highlight and lowlight, and let's start with Lukas.
I would say the highlight for me is when we're introduced to Jo and Ellen, because not only are they people that John happens to know, but even though they become immediate fan favorites, or at least to Ellen, sadly not much for Jo, but it definitely broadens the horizon a little bit for Sam and Dean, because throughout season 1, yes, we do hear mentions about there's hunters out there, they do this on a daily basis, they hunt monsters and everything, but we never do really get to see any of them, or hardly ever. And seeing Jo, Ellen, and even Ash being brought into the picture just kind of widens the range and showing that Sam and Dean and John and even Bobby are not the only hunters in the world or even in the country dealing with all this. So it's, for me, I like that it makes their world a little bit more bigger and that they're not alone in this long continuous fight.
Yeah, totally. And do you have a low light?
Not much for low light. I'd say when they had to definitely ditch Bobby's one and only working van, because it's of all the vehicles that they would eventually trash and toss away or even get shot up, that was pretty much, yes, the only vehicle that's ever that was properly disposed, but still a working vehicle that they could have used more than once. So it's shame on you for disposing of a vehicle that we could have used more than once.
It is now my headcanon that Bobby made them steal a car so they could go retrieve his.
That makes sense.
Audrey, what's yours? Do you have a highlight and a low light?
My highlight was definitely seeing Ellen and Ash and Jo because I love them so much. And then my low light, I had actually two. I mentioned earlier that it made me uncomfortable when Dean was, bashing up Baby because...
It's Baby.
Well, yes, it's Baby, but also, like, to see him so upset like that, like, it was just terrible. And, like, feeling like he had no other outlet other than to bash up something. Like, it was just such an uncomfortable moment, especially since he loves Baby usually. And then, the other low light I had was when Dean was yelling at Sam and upset Sam, because Sam looked like he was on the verge of tears, and I just don't like them arguing like that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Meredith, what was your highlight and low light?
Highlight, Ellen, Jo, and Ash, which is not surprising.
Obviously.
My low light was stupid children letting strangers into their houses.
Sure.
Oh
That is a lot.
Yeah. It's just like, are none of you raised better?
Clearly not.
Different kind of pandemic in the thousands.
Pandemic of trust.
Of bad parenting.
And Jordan, what was your highlight and low light?
Highlight, definitely Jo and Ellen and Ash. I love all those characters. Also, Dean getting punched in the face. That was just a little bit of a highlight for me. Low light, anything with the clown, really.
Fair enough.
Anything with the clown.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
When they're driving home and you see him on the side of the road, that's scary shit.
It's like, hello, children. Have you been
It's just
naughty
like
today?
Pennywise. It's just like Pennywise.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Would you like a balloon?
My low light was the lack of understanding on the behalf of both of the brothers. Just not understanding what the other one is dealing with or feeling, and not wanting to either. I also don't love clowns either, or bugs, and this had both.
I don't know, I just had a random thought. I guess they haven't really, been around each other enough as adults to see the way the other one grieves.
Oh, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, so it's, kind of a new experience for them that might explain some of what's going on.
Yeah, that's true, because I guess Sam would have been about 18 or something when he left for Stanford.
Yeah. And I mean, Sam's been putting off grieving for Jess quite a lot.
Yeah.
And that wasn't Dean's thing to grieve either. Like, it's very much a Sam thing. My highlight was the introduction of Ellen, Jo, and Ash, obviously. Our next segment is Call CPS, which is times when an adult should be calling CPS, mostly on John.
Well,
I love Ellen so much, but I think Ellen is in the ranks of Bobby and Pastor Jim and Caleb and anyone else who the boys were being exposed to as children.
She absolutely is.
sorry,
Like,
Ellen.
I love Ellen, and I think if John had let the kids around Ellen more, she would have. But I think he on purpose kept them away because he knew that she would.
It's true, because, she's the only one that actually has a kid.
Yeah. Mental health check. I'm not a psychologist. This segment is based purely on my own opinions and a weekly reminder that if you're struggling with anything at all, please reach out for help. This week was straight up a hot mess. It was
Boy, do we have
bad.
opinions.
Neither of them are dealing well with John's death. They're both a little lost and a little confused and angry and just generally upset. I feel like we talked about it while it was coming up a lot, so I don't have a lot else to say, except that I wish that they would just take it a little easy on each other. I wish Bobby had been present, because I feel like Bobby would have them navigate it a bit more. I hope Ellen's good for them. In fact, I know that Ellen is good for them in terms of mental health, so I'm glad that they'll have that new person to
Ellen's
care
good
for them.
for me.
Ellen
Yes.
is good for me.
Who cares about the boys? We just need Ellen.
They don't exist. I do.
Soul transactions, nothing new happening there. Sam's traumatic brain injury. Sam stayed conscious this entire episode.
Whoa.
I'm really proud of him.
Very impressed. Not knocked out at all.
Good for you, Sammy.
Yeah. To finish off this week's episode, we have Line of the Week. So let's start with... Who have we not started with? Let's start with Audrey.
I thought it was funny when they were getting to the circus, and I forget why he said it, but Sam said to Dean, "Oh, good, that's nice and inconspicuous." It's like the sarcasm.
The judgmental brother.
Jordan.
Mommy, Daddy, they shot my clown.
They should have.
That was a solid contender for me.
She didn't even sound that into it either.
They shot my clown. They shot my clown.
Why would they do that? I
saved your life is what I did.
That girl's gonna need therapy.
Ungrateful child.
They're all gonna need therapy.
At least she won't need as much therapy as she'd need if the clown had, like, ripped her parents apart in front of her.
In front of her, yeah.
That is true.
Well.
They saved her life.
Lucas, how about you?
Please tell me that's a rifle. Chuck. No, I'm just happy to see you.
Oh, I love that.
Joe is excellent. Joe is excellent. Meredith, I didn't ask you yet, right?
Right. I had the exact same one as Lucas. Like, I haven't seen this episode in a really long time, and that's like the only line I remember, which means something good.
Mine was different than everybody else's. It was planes crash, and apparently clowns kill.
That was another one I had written down on my list. It was hard to narrow down to a favorite.
It was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's good. But that is it for this week. So my guests are all going to give their social medias and sign out. So let's start with Meredith.
All right. I am at Shades of Deianira on Tumblr and Instagram. And if you go there, you'll see lots of cool drawings for the fantasy novel I'm writing. And it doesn't have clowns.
Excellent. So glad to hear that.
Yes.
And Audrey.
I'm Audrey. You can find me on Twitter at StareApparent if you want, where I make weird complaints.
Excellent.
It's kind of like living with her.
Yeah, it's not different from real life now.
And Lucas.
My name is Lukas, and my Instagram is the Doctor26, and my TikTok is the Doctor6969. Pretty much a lot of things Doctor Who in my titles. I like to do the occasional sharing of any particular fandom, including obviously Doctor Who, Supernatural, anything up and coming.
Awesome. And Jordan.
My name is Jordan. I am at PsychicChick21 on the TikTok and at Whovian23 on Smule, where Lucas and I occasionally do voice acting for funsies.
I love that for you guys.
Cool. I have to check that out. Voice acting is fun.
Jordan's got the usernames.
I got you.
I've not used Smule in such a long time, I've forgotten my username.
I know we did it the other day. I said it last time, but I can't remember.
You had it. Jordan had it last time. I'll have it in the show notes.
The Doctor 2187.
Awesome.
FN 2187.
There you go. That's where it is.
I understood that reference.
Well done.
And that was everybody, right? 4 is a lot to remember.
Are you tired, KJ?
I am.
I've been KJ. You can find me on all social media platforms at Life Messes of KJ.
Except for TikTok, where you can now find me at SPN Opinions KJ.
If you want to be on the podcast, you can either reach out to me there or you can reach out through the podcast social media. You can email the podcast. Our email address is supernaturalopinionspodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at SPN Opinions Pod. We are Supernatural Opinions Podcast on Facebook and at Supernatural Opinions Pod on Instagram. And if you could subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast, that really helps people to find us. And if you want to hear more of me and my thoughts, you can check out my other podcast, Series of Opinions, available on all the same places as this one. This podcast was written, recorded, produced, and edited by me. Thank you to Faith Ebert for our logo. Our theme song is by Jo Harvelle. Thank you once again to all of our amazing guests.